Hi, Roy here, checking in briefly with my Christmas magazine special project. This time looking at The Strand, which was a illustrated monthly that started off in the 1890s. In those days, the covers always looked the same. This picture of the Strand, the street in London. As far as I can see, they didn't have Christmas special issues, but if it was December 1893, your Strand magazine would have included Sherlock Holmes' story, The Adventure of the Final Problem. So, a very famous story featuring Professor Moriarty and the apparent death of Arthur Conan Doyle's famous detective. You'd also get all sorts of other stuff, like an article about the Sultan of Turkey. I was quite struck with Monarchs and Muscle. Monarchs and Muscle. An article about, in fact, by Miss Phyllis Bentley. Miss Phyllis Bentley is well known to the public by her clever exhibition of experiments in lifting and balancing. These experiments she has had the honour of performing before many of the crowned heads of Europe. In the following interesting article relates her experience of these royal personages. So it seems like these experiments involved her demonstrating how some kind of clever use of balance and position enabled feats of strength, either by members of the audience or herself. So you would suddenly be able to break a pool cue or a billiard cue in half. But there's Prince George of Greece breaking a billiard cue, and she herself is able to lift up 4 grown men on a chair. Not just any men. The Tsar, the Crown Prince of Denmark, Prince George of Greece, and the Duke of Cumberland being raised up. And she does point out that genuinely posh people don't mind doing these kind of ridiculous stunts, whereas arrivistes and nouveau riche type folks are more concerned with their own dignity. Anyway, yes, so that was you see what I mean about my having lots of nice bookmarks, and here I'm using the wrapper from a piece of elastoplast in this magazine. I thought I might read one of the other stories. I've read The Final Problem, but A Literary Coincidence by E.W. Hornung looks good. Hornung, who created A.J. Raffles, a sort of criminal rival of Sherlock Holmes. Anyway, yeah, so like I say, not really a Christmas issue. If you were in 1920, you would have got a proper Christmas number of The Strand, with Arthur Conan Doyle in it, and with another famous piece of Conan Doyle's writing, the article where he talks about photographing fairies, the Cossingley fairies I think they're called, and how that was real. So that's a sort of super famous issue. But the one I've got is 1938, The Strand Christmas number, which if nothing else looks super Christmassy. So it's actually the same street scene, different painting, different time, and a bit of product placement for Oxo. They're a stock cube manufacturer, you see, Oxo. It's like Cow-O, sort of, or Bovril. They're indicating it's
for gravy.
Yes.
More of gravy than of grave about it.
Well, it sort of fits in the Christmas vibe, doesn't it?
Really, doesn't it?
On the back, you get a beautiful advert for Atora suet, suet being a type of fat used in puddings, and you get a Christmas pudding recipe and a mince pie recipe. In fact, you get lots of cool adverts for all sorts of interesting things. Cigarettes. 10 minutes to wait before the crowd arrives, says Leonora Corbett, so she's having a fag. Mine's a miner, she says. Miners were a type of cigarette that supposedly lasted for 10 minutes. I'm not sure if that's short or long. There's something you wouldn't see anymore. You wouldn't see a cigarette advert with a lady smoking, and even if you did, she probably wouldn't have a fox fur stole over her shoulder.
She got crocodile skin shoes as well.
She might have. Yeah. Yes.
And muskox perfume.
Well, she's enjoying that leisured quarter hour.
Jolly good.
It was 10 minutes at the top of the page, and that was already a quarter of an hour. It's 5 minutes stubbing out time.
5 minutes putting on more muskox perfume.
It might burst into flames with the animal products. More cigarettes. Players Navy Cut, which I've actually had. And you get fiction as advertised on the front. There's a story by Hugh Walpole. Hugh Walpole, a novelist you don't hear much of anymore. Used to be super famous, mid-century, I suppose, or sort of early to mid-20th century. I first came across Hugh Walpole with a supernatural story called The Tarnhelm, which I just thought was utterly amazing, and sought out loads and loads of his stuff. And he did write a fair few uncanny type stories, usually pretty good, but also sort of thrillers and just basic human drama, sort of middle-brow lit-fic, really. I've never read a Hugh Walpole book I didn't like. Probably best known now for the Herries saga, a series, sort of family, what do you call it?
Saga.
Yeah, I've already said saga though. Is there another word I can use?
Family Chronicle.
Yeah, bunch of books in generations. I believe set in Cumberland.
It's got to be a saga, like the Forsyte saga.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's mentioned in a Monty Python sketch anyway. So, if nothing else, he's got fame for that. I mean, look at the typography though for these sort of elegant headings. The Train to the Sea is a story set around a Christmas party. It's quite heartwarming. It's about a couple. Things come to a bit of a crisis. The man's kind of an introvert, although it doesn't use that word, and his family just love having Christmas parties. Every night he comes back, it's like, who are these people? What's going on? Until he finally takes his wife back to the hotel by the seaside where they first had their honeymoon holiday. And all is well after that.
Honeymoon holiday.
And then you get a story by Sapper, Cyril McNeill, I think was his name, and it is one of his Bulldog Drummond stories. So Bulldog Drummond, famous action character. I guess having a Bulldog Drummond story show up in your Christmas special, it would be a bit like now if you bought something like this and it had a Jack Reacher story. So a bit famous thriller character. This story is more of a detective story, really. It's fine. I mean, the whole magazine's a bit sort of tame, I suppose. But again, who cares? It's super Christmassy. Worth it for the adverts alone. I swear they must have used different inks in those days. The colours on these sort of things really blazing out. They're probably made with lead or something like that.
Uranium.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Yep, so that's the Strand. Obviously a long-lived magazine. It started in the Victorian times, was still going. Can't remember, it might have been finished off by the war, might have even lasted longer than that. So that's magazine of the day in the world of Christmas specials. Back soon with something else.